In this video, I'm going to show you how to reconcile an account in QuickBooks. Today, we're going to be reconciling a sample checking account, but you can also and should reconcile your savings account, your line of credit account, your loan account on your vehicle or whatever asset you have financed. This should be something that you do at the end of the month as part of your month-end close. For clients that we have where there is a lot of activity in the checking account, we might do this more frequently on a weekly basis perhaps, but we'll hold shy of the final step, which I'll talk about when we get there. So to begin from this dashboard screen of your QuickBooks Online account, to reconcile an account, you would click this gear icon in the upper right corner and then click on Reconcile. From this drop-down box, you would select the account that you want to reconcile. Now, as you can see, this is a pretty short drop-down box. Every item in our chart of accounts is not in here, and that's because only certain types of accounts can be reconciled. Bank accounts are one of those type of accounts, so we'll click on the one that we want to reconcile, which is this First Citizens account. When we click on that, we see that this account was reconciled previously, and we can see the beginning balance. This last statement ending date, the last reconciliation, was February 28th. So that means the beginning balance shown here is for the period beginning March 1st. The beginning balance of March is the ending balance of February. And on the sample bank statement that we're going to reconcile, we can confirm that $175,800 is the opening balance of the account. We will type in the ending or the closing balance from the statement, which is $591,800, and we will type in the ending date from the statement, which is March 31st. Every statement's going to look different, but all this information is typically somewhere on the first page of the statement. Depending on the type of account that is set up, you might have these fields down here. These are just quick ways to record interest and service charges. When using these fields, though, make sure that the information hasn't already come through the bank feed, because if the transaction came through the bank feed and you recorded it at that point, recording it again here would duplicate things. So I typically don't use these fields unless for some reason the account is not connected to the live bank feed. So let's click Start Reconcile. The goal is always to have this be zero. We want a $0 difference, and until we get there, something's not quite right. So before we begin, just a little bit of the tour around this screen. We again see our beginning balance, we see the ending balance that we typed in, and we see payment and deposit amounts. Now, we have only a few transactions to reconcile today. These numbers become more useful when there's a lot of volume and you're not able to easily get that $0 difference. Looking at these two numbers and comparing them to your statement, where it will likely say total credit amount or total debit amount, will help you figure out where the difference might be. So, to begin, I like to filter by either payments or deposits and just start in one place. So let's click on deposits and start there. So if we pull up our bank statement, we see that there are 2 deposits, but I see 3 here. And so it looks like we do have a duplicate. Here it looks like one was put in as a transfer and one was put in as a deposit. On our bank statement it says transfer, so we'll go ahead and click on this one. And we also see a $10,000 deposit, and we can just make sure the date is also correct, March 19th, and that's what the statement says. And so we've got this extra one. So from any of these rows, if we click on them, and then click Edit, it will show us the actual transaction. And if you need to delete it, you can click More, and then click Delete, and then Confirm. And then if we go back to our reconciliation, that transaction will be gone. Now let's do payments. And as we move on to payments, we'll note that the total deposit number now says $510,000, which is what our bank statement says. So we know that this difference of $94,000 has nothing to do with deposits. So we're going to work on the payments now. And I'm just going to go down this list and check off the debits or the payment transactions that I see on the bank statement. Just going down in order, checking them off one at a time as I see them on the bank statement. And now we have a $0 difference, and so now we're done with the reconciliation. But before I close, I will just mention a few other things that you can do on this screen. I use this screen to make sure everything is looking all right in terms of how things were categorized. So we can see on the bank statement, it's talking about the $5,400 transaction being a payment on a credit card. So we can kind of see that this is a transfer type transaction and the account it's going to is Visa, so that makes sense. That's how a credit card payment would be recorded, so that one's probably accurate. And we can go through along checking coding and making sure things are correct. And then when you're all done, when you're sure things are right, you can come up here to the Finish Now button. So since this is the end of the month in this sample, I'll actually click that Finish Now button. But in the beginning of the video, I had mentioned that on clients with high volume, I might do this process weekly. Well, you don't get an actual bank statement weekly. So weekly, I would just take the number from the bank website and use that as the statement ending balance. And I would go through this process, make sure I get my zero, and I just wouldn't hit Finish Now. I would instead hit Save for later and come back next week. And then on this screen, I would hit Edit Info, and I would type over the ending balance with whatever number is on the bank website now, update my date, which would be, some date in the middle of the month, and then I would save. And I would keep doing that process until I actually do get the PDF bank statement at the end of the month, and then I would do this process as we did today. And when I'm done, I would then hit Finish Now. And your account is now reconciled, which means you can be sure there are no duplicate transactions and no transactions missing, which means your balance on the balance sheet will be right and your P&L income and expense items will be right. And now we're reset here for the next month. The last statement ending date, March 31st. The beginning balance now of April is what our statement for March says the closing balance was. So when we get our next PDF statement, we'll come back here, fill in the fields, and do it all over again. If you have any questions about how to reconcile your bank statement, your savings, checking, or line of credit statement, feel free to reach out to us at SwedaConsulting.com, also on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and of course by email. Thanks for watching.